was with you guys, we were talking about using the percent equation, and we said that percent equation is part equals percent times whole. And if you can pick each part of that out, then you're in good shape. You just have to put it in and solve it. So the first one says, is the question 190 is 10% of what number? Looking for the part, the percent, or the whole? Tell me what it's looking for and how you knew that. Lily. Good. And so that's how you knew it was the whole? Good. Yeah, I talked about, if you think about if something is out of something, so that's like me saying our test is going to be out of 100 points. That means that's how much the test has total. That's your total amount of points on the test. So that's how you know which one it's looking for. So this one is looking for the whole. All right, next one. We actually had to figure it out. Well, this one right here, here's the word of. So if I say out of, that tells me that that is the total. Is always in math is equals. And so if it's on the other side of equals, then right here, the other side of equals is the part. And obviously it says what percent, so we know that's what we're looking for here is the percent. So I'm going to say the part 1 equals my percent, I'm going to use a P times 110. Then I'm going to make it look prettier, so 1 equals 110 P. How do I figure out what P is? Kindle. And what do I divide by? Good. You divide both sides by 110. So then I'm going to have to go to my trusty calculator. So 1 divided by 110. And I get, wow, this big long number, and I'm looking for a percent. So I have to move the decimal point 2 times, right? So I move it 2 times. Let's see if my board will work. Aha. All right, so I move it 2 times. 1, 2, which puts it in front of the 9. So this is actually 0.9%. Okay, so remember, decimal point only moves 2 times. So I was working with my morning group today. They kept forgetting, and they were moving it too many times or not enough times. They get it fixed? Yay, awesome. All right, next one. 98 is 22.5% of what number? So again, if I add the word out of, I am looking for the whole. So now I'm going to plug it into my problem, and I've got 98. So 98 equals 22.5%. What do I have to change that to put it in my problem? A decimal. So I move the decimal point 2 times. So I move it 2 times, 1, 2, and I get 0.225, and then it says of what number? So times W. So I'm going to divide both sides by 0.225 to get rid of it. So 98 divided by 0.225. 98 divided by 0.225. And I get this number. So 435.55. And it didn't tell me what to round to. So 435, I could say 0.6. If I wanted to, that would be rounding to the nearest tenth. Or if I want to go nearest whole number, I could say 436 because the 5 would have bumped that up. So you can choose what you rounded to. But you can't put just 435 because then you didn't round correctly. Okay, questions on any of those? We're going to do more of this today, but it's going to be a little bit harder. The numbers are going to be harder. Good? Okay, let's keep it going. Oh, that's not going to work. All right, learning goal today. So our learning goal today, we're still just trying to solve percent problems. So same thing. And first thing I want you to understand is very, very small percentages. So this part I just want you to kind of listen to and think about using your brain. Okay, so if I say that I have $100 out of 1,000, that is 10%. So I think $1,000 is a lot. I'm going to give you 100. So I gave you 10%. You'd probably still be happy. Okay. But if I said I won $1,000, I'm going to give you 1%. Is that very much? No, 1% is only $10. Okay, so like if I think about this, you guys have heard of the Discover card, credit card, right? Have you ever seen that? And they say 1% cash back. Have you ever seen that on commercials? Okay, so I have to spend $1,000 to get $10 back. Yeah, Preston, I just went, what? But that's true. And then sometimes they offer me 5% back. But a lot of my places are only 1%. So am I getting a ton? No, I don't get a ton. I have to spend quite a bit. Okay, then the last one. The last one is talking about a really small percent. So that's saying 0.1%. So not even a whole percent of $1,000 is $1. So think if you had to spend $1,000 and all you got was $1. That's a very small percent. Okay, and that happens a lot. That happens a lot with savings accounts. Savings accounts, you get a very tiny percentage back. I think a lot of times my statement will say I just got like 38 cents. You know, you don't get a ton. And I've got $1,000 in there. So you don't get a ton. All right, so let's look at then how do we convert if you have a very small percent. How do you convert that so you can use it in the percent equation? Okay, all right, so this says which numbers are equivalent to a fourth of a percent. Okay, so a fourth of a percent, is that even a whole percent? No. Okay, so that's like saying I have a fourth of a pizza. I only have 0.25%, super tiny. Okay, so is that the same thing as 25%? No. If you got 25% on a quiz, you did poorly, but that's better than getting a fourth of a percent. Does that make sense? Because that'd be less than 1. Okay, what about 4 out of 100? Let's think about this. If you got 4 right on a test out of 100, what was your percent? You only got 4 questions right. 4%. Right? If you got 4 questions right out of 100, you just got 4%. Isn't percent always out of 100? So this right here would be 4%. That's it. It's out of 100 already. Okay? What about the next one? 0.25. What percent would 0.25 be? Yeah, this would be 25%. Right? 0.25 would be the same thing as this one, right? 0.25 and 25% are the same. Okay, so now let's look at the last one. Okay, if I have a percent like 30%, how many times do I always move the decimal? Twice, right? So 1, 2, and I move it that direction. Agreed? So if this is in a percent, how many times do I have to move the decimal? Twice, and in which direction? That way, right? So here's the decimal currently. I move it 1 time, 2 times. So that is the correct decimal. That's the only one that's the same. Does that make sense? Because it's so uber tiny. All right, we're going to try some more like that because I know that's kind of hard to think about. All right, let's try this next slide. Okay, this says equivalent to 0.5%, not equivalent to 0.5%. So 0.5% is not even 1%. You have failed a quiz so miserably, you did not even get 1%. You only got 0.5%. Okay, like we're insulting you almost. Okay, all right. So let's look at these and tell me, can you tell me any that you know are the same or not the same? There's a couple up here that are easy. You see any that are easy? Okay, so is 50% equivalent to 0.5%? No, if you got 50% on a quiz, at least you got 50, right? So this is not equivalent. 50% would be way better than me giving you a 0.5%. Okay, all right, do you see another easy one? There's one more pretty easy one. Okay, 1/2, where would that go? Yeah, because if you got half of the points on the test, you at least got half, right? Okay, so it's definitely not this one. You did not get half of them correct. Okay, so you got to know what is 1/50. Should we check that? Okay, so 1 divided by 50 is 0.02. Because does anybody, that would be 2%. Very good. That's exactly what I was going to ask. That would be 2%. So that is not equivalent. Sorry, no, did we just do 1/5? No, we did 1/50th. Sorry. Yes, 1/50th would be 2%. Okay. What if you got 1/5? What percent is that? That's 20%, right? You got 1 out of 5, so that's not equivalent. Good. Okay. I see another pretty easy one up there. There's one easy one left. Cassie? 0.5. Because isn't this the same thing as this, just in decimal form? Does that make sense? That's 0.5%. Okay. So 0.5%. Okay. All right. I still see probably at least one more easy one. It's in the first box. Which one is easy up there? Yeah, that's a half, right? That'd be like 50 cents. That's not the same as a 0.5%. Or that would be like, what percent would this be? 50%. Does that make sense? Because you would move the decimal point 2 times, 50%. Okay, 50% on a test. That wouldn't be terrible. Okay, well, it would be terrible. What if I got, let's say, 50% off of a sweater? That's a good price, right? Okay, but if I got 0.5%, would that be very good? No. Okay, all right, now we got to figure out the other ones. Okay, so let's do 0.05. What is this one as a percent? 5%. Is that the same thing? Nope. All right, what do we have left? What would this percent be? Okay, so is that the same thing? Yes, that one is the same. Okay, and the last one I have 1/200. So what would I probably need to do with that one? Divide it and see what we get. So 1 divided by 200. Oops, 200. So it's the same thing. Good. So this would be 1/200. Okay. Now, if you think about that, what would 1/100 be? What percent? 1%. So does it make sense if that's 1%, that if I double this and make it 1/200, that would be a 0.5%? Does that make sense? Okay, good. Because it's trying to get you to understand the number sense behind it. All right, let's look at the next one then. Okay, so let's try to do some of the things we were doing like in the warm-up. All right, so first one says blank is 1/4% of 200. So I got to think back. Do I know the part, percent, whole? Which one am I missing? Which one? Yeah, aren't I missing the part? Here's the out of 200. So this is saying the test is out of 200. That's your whole amount. Okay, and then I know the percent. Okay, so here's where this is going to get tricky. Okay, I'm missing the part. So I'm going to put P. I need to be able to plop in my percent, and I know that this is times 200. Okay, so I always have to put the percent in a decimal form, correct? Okay, that's where this gets tricky. So see if this makes sense to you. Okay, so I'm going to take the 1/4 and change it into this. Have I done anything crazy yet? Does that make sense? Now, that is not in decimal form. It's still in percent, right? Because if I just call that 25%, that's not the same. So what do I have to do with the decimal? Move it 2 times. Okay? I got to make this number extremely tiny. So I move it over 2 times, which means I add in 2 zeros. So 0.0025. That is 0.25%. Okay, so now I'm going to put that in my little box up here. Now process that and see if that makes sense. Because you'll miss all of these if you don't understand what I just did. Does that make sense? Questions on that before I keep going? Okay, so now I just have to work it, right? This is the easy part. So I just have to take those 2 numbers and multiply them together. Okay, so 0.0025 times 200. 0.0025 times 200. And I get 0.5.